Okay, I will go ahead and ready. Call this meeting to order. It is April 18th, 2024. This is the regularly scheduled Glenwood Springs City Council meeting. Will you please call roll?
Mayor Wusso,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean,
Here.
Counselor Zawinski,
Present.
Counselor Godes,
Here.
Counselor Schachter,
Present.
Counselor Kell,
Here.
Counselor Weimer.
Here.
We have quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Item number 7, agenda changes or conflicts. Do we have any of those this evening? Hold on one second. Counselor Dunn.
Madam Mayor, I noticed that, and I don't know why this has to be me all the time, but our social event is not on the agenda for tonight. So I'd like to add that
Great, thank you.
as item 22, I guess, and move 20 and 21 down.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. We'll just do it as item number 22. Council announcements. Anyone have any announcements this evening? Okay, close that. Citizens appearing before council. These are for items not on the agenda. Anyone here this evening, you get 3 minutes. You're welcome to come up to the podium. Is this? Okay. Gary Vick?
Madam Mayor, I'm gonna go last if there's no other speakers.
There's no one else. Yeah, there's no one else, so you're welcome to come to the podium.
I'll be very brief. I would just like to congratulate both sides of the question A campaign and movement. I think both sides have been respectful and done a nice job presenting their case. I know the opposition was invited here by some members of council tonight, and I see no one's here, so I have nothing to rebut. So I'll leave it with you. Thank you.
Anyone else here this evening for public comment? These are items not on the agenda. Okay, we will close that portion of the agenda then, and we will move on to council announcements and reaction to public comments. So I'm going to make an assumption that there is none this evening. Okay, great. Can't close that. I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Counselor Kaup.
I will move to approve the consent agenda, and I'd like to say there are 2 items on here. I just want to point out that I'm very excited about approving, and that is the award for the Blake Street Phase 1
Yes.
improvements. Those are very much needed in that area, and also the resurfacing of the Devereaux Bridge. So to get those done this year is great.
Second on that.
I would second that motion.
Okay. And before we move on, I want to just a huge bit of gratitude to our staff who worked very hard to get the $1 million grant for the Blake Avenue reconstruction. So thank you all for that. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda? Any opposed? Okay, that motion passed unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to, oh, sorry. Counselor Schachter had a comment.
One
Yeah.
quick comment, if I may. Part of the consent agenda approved an electric rate increase of 5%. And just to be clear and know that this has been projected for many years and announced to the public, so it is not a surprise, but it will take effect as part of a phased rate increase based on our rate studies. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to do a proclamation for National Donate Life Month. I believe there is a representative from the organization. I'm going to turn this mic around. Come on up and we'll do that together. Yeah, come on up. The more the merrier. Seriously, the more the merrier. Come on up.
They're being shy. So I can say a couple things.
Yeah, let me do the proclamation first and then you can go ahead and take it. I should probably put my readers back on. Thank you. Okay. Okay. In honor of National Donate Life Month, thank you so much. You guys are with the.
We are staff, board member,
living donor.
Excellent. With your organization?
Chris Clue Foundation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Whereas April is National Donate Life Month, whereas one person could save 8 lives through organ donation and heal up to 75 lives through tissue donation. Whereas since 2001, you can sign up to be a donor by saying yes when obtaining your driver's license, driver's permit, or state ID. Whereas there are nearly 2,000 people on the waiting list for a life-saving organ transplant operation in Colorado, and more than 103,000 are waiting nationwide. Whereas more than 68% of Coloradoans had signed up to be organ, eye, and tissue donors and saved lives through organ and tissue donation and transplantation. Anyone can register to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor, regardless of age, race, medical history, religion, or income. Even those with chronic conditions such as hepatitis, and diabetes can sign up to give the gift of life at any age. Whereas the Chris Klug Foundation has a mission to educate individuals to register as organ, eye, and tissue donations and inspire those in the transplant community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado to be affixed this 18th day of April in the year 2024. Thank you so much for coming this evening. It sounds like you guys want to say a couple things. Yes, please do.
So I'm Jessie Rochelle. I'm the executive director of the foundation, and I just really want to say thank you for this opportunity
Absolutely.
to be before you guys
Yeah.
and for the time and effort to make the proclamation and recognize this important cause. 98% of Americans say they support it, 48% registered. And as the proclamation says, there's 103,000 people waiting, 17 people die every day, and just one donor can save 8 lives and heal 75 more. So it's really important to get educated, know what your decision is, know what your family's decisions are, and then help us spread the message.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for being here this evening. Yeah, thank you so much. We heard you were a recipient.
I'm actually a living liver donor.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
donated 55% of my liver to my dad
Okay.
in 2011,
Excellent.
and he's still with us today.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just an honor to be here, and I've never been a part of anything like this, and so thank you for
thank
this
you.
recognition. This is amazing.
I think your contribution to your family and your community is much greater, but I thank you for, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for leading
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
you.
yep, a living donation. And then did you want to also?
My name is Kate Dobbs. I'm a board member of the
Okay.
Chris Klug
Yeah.
Foundation. This is a very tough act to follow.
Yeah.
So I will just say I have the privilege of working with these ladies to spread the word.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all for coming this evening. Okay. Ready, set. We're going to go ahead and we're moving on to the actions and or presentation section of the agenda. The first item is a youth zone update.
Council. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. My name is Ali. I'm Deputy Development Director at Youth Zone. I'm joined by Lynn Williams, our Director of Operations. We're here tonight to give an opportunity for you guys to ask questions about our application for a $20,000 Financial Advisory Board grant, which I believe you guys reviewed earlier. Hopefully you haven't made a decision yet. So is there a way, I know you all have it in your packets, but if there's a way for perhaps the rest of the staff and audience to see our little presentation, that'd be useful, but if not, no problem. I believe that all of you were here when I was last here in September. I don't think anyone has.
Hold on one second. If you do want us to see your presentation, we're going to have Brianna come back in. I think she's probably just out in the hall, and we'll have, do you have a computer?
No, ma'am.
Oh,
But I
okay.
did submit to Ryan last
Okay.
week.
Okay, then, yeah, we have it. I just don't know that we can we pull it up?
No, it's fine. No
Okay,
problem.
Okay,
No worries.
Okay.
And like I said, I think most of you were here when I was here in September, so I'd like to just give you a quick update on what we've done in the last 8 months or so, and give you an opportunity to ask any questions.
Ask this point of order if is there any way we can?
we can. We just confirmed that. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, we're still talking about the technology.
No
We
problem.
haven't moved on from that. So
Spent 15 minutes this morning doing the same thing. So
Okay.
no problem.
happens to the best organizations, right?
Problem.
Benefit of.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Go ahead.
No problem. So I want to just highlight some of the successes that we had in 2023. It was a challenging year for us, but we also had a lot of things that I'd like to highlight for you. So one of the biggest things that we accomplished was reducing the time between the referral and the time that we schedule our client. And we reduced it by half. So we went from 9 days to 4 days. So there was a period of time where it was taking a long time. Once referrals were submitted to us either by the court or by our referral partners, law enforcement agents and schools. And we've really worked hard to get that down so that it's not a lag time. And that's made a huge difference in being able to serve our kids quickly and effectively. We've contracted with 6 local mental health providers, and they have a variety of specialties, primarily trauma, substance use, and family therapy. And that allows us to kind of skip some of the waiting lines that other mental health providers have. Once they're working with us, those contracts allow our clients to immediately start receiving services with them. We also have one, not here in Glenwood, but in Rifle, who is booked with us for an entire day. That way they're always on demand and they're there whenever they need them. We've done, I think, a really good job rekindling and expanding partnerships with our law enforcement agents, school districts, local courts, and local governments like you guys. That was, I would say, one of the biggest challenges that we're really proud of the work that we've put into, thank you, to rekindle those partnerships and make sure that they're working for everyone. We're proud to have hired a clinical supervisor in-house. She'll provide 360 hours of clinical supervision each year. And that's for our certified staff who have social work licenses and counseling licenses, as well as staff who are pursuing those licenses. So that was one of the biggest barriers to entry for hiring new staff, was that they didn't have that ability to be supervised. So we're proud to have that. And it's given us a lot of comfortability in the services that we're providing, making sure that we have somebody that verifies that everything we're doing is appropriate. We also hired a parent and education community outreach coordinator. They helped organize one of our biggest events in 2023, which was a free community engagement event. And they've also dived headfirst into providing wraparound services for families that may need extra support dealing with some of the circumstances that their kids are in. I said this last time, but we find a lot of times family members also have kind of coinciding issues that they need a little bit of help with. We added an additional substance program staff member, and I think we just got another half who started last week after I submitted this report. Our staff is 75% bilingual, which has been a huge push. And then we also have done a variety of trainings last year, mental health first aid, trauma-informed care, motivational interviewing. Today, we just completed a restorative justice 101. And as we speak, the rest of the staff are in there doing a restorative justice facilitator program, which is the next level of restorative justice training. So we're really proud on the amount that we've invested in our employees. We've also grown the budget from $1.5 million to $2.4 million, which is a huge jump. So we've been playing catch up in terms of benefits, salaries, and we're really proud to say that we're on track with other areas of our state, and particularly urban areas in the state. So those are just some of the things that we wanted to highlight that we felt were important to us last year. We have slightly different goals coming up for our next fiscal year, which starts in July 1st. Again, we just want to reinvest in community partnerships. And at the end of the day, that's to see better outcomes for our kids. So continued outreach with schools, law enforcement agents. And the goal here is to get them before they get to the court. So trying to find them before those tickets are written. And I know we've been working with Sean quite a bit, so. Second goal is to reduce barriers to access, and those are primarily transportation, language, cost, and timeliness. And those aren't new. We talked about those last time, but we really want to focus on eliminating those as much as we can. And then finally, we're just trying to improve the capacity to do what we do well, particularly with regard to mental health and substance use. And so our substance team has grown really strong. We've got those mental health providers on contract, and we would just want to keep investing in those two areas because those are the areas where we see the most need. So this is our fiscal year to date, so July 1st to today. And then I've compared it on the left column to last fiscal year. So we're on track to either meet or surpass a lot of the things that we did last year. So already 440 assessments. We've still got 3 months left. So chances are we probably will get close to that number or pass it. Unique youth, same thing, 377 so far this year. 1,400 community members, and that's just family members, right? That's not your teachers, that's not your law enforcement agents, that's not your neighbors. That's just the people in these kids' families. And then this is the part that we're really proud of. We've almost doubled the amount of services that we've provided. So substance use education classes, 98 compared to 46. Restorative justice sessions, 80 compared to 41. And then life skills, we've had a little bit of a change in the way that we're providing services. And a lot of that is just because we're seeing more substance and mental health needs in our community. So that's one area that we've talked a lot about, how we're going to continue to provide those services. And then in Glenwood in specific, move this a little bit, see the numbers, maybe not. Glenwood in specific, we've already surpassed our numbers from last year. So we've served 93 already this year to date. Last year was 73. Again, 76 unique youth. So there's a lot of kids in Glenwood that come back 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And we discussed this last time. That's just the level of support that they need. 311 community members. And then this is also good news. Our completion rate has gone up, but our reoffense rate has gone down. So they're more likely to complete their courses and classes with us than they were last time you saw me. But they are getting in trouble more. So interesting changes. And again, it depends on which community you're in, what time of year you're talking to me. It changes a lot. Not much has changed in the demographics. We are seeing more of our referrals come from courts. And a lot of that is because we're just doubling down on what we know we do well and the bulk of our work. And so, again, our goal is to continue partnering with schools and law enforcement agents to get that 8% and that 5% up. We have grown the amount of people that are coming to us on their own. And then the 6% is probation and some other community partners that refer to us. By and large, same charges that you saw last time, possession of drugs and alcohol, which is why we're reinvesting in the substance programming, fighting petty theft, and then parents coming in for additional assistance. This is also something we're really proud of. Last time I was here, it was like 20 or 30% reported improvement. Now we're up to 47%. So we're moving the needle on at least one metric for more kids than we were last year. So we're proud of that. I'd like to give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions, particularly in response to the application that we've submitted. And if you have any questions for Lynn about some of the behind the scenes work that we've been doing, I'm sure we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Doesn't look like there are. And I think that's an indication that you've just provided a lot of great intel and helped us really understand. I also think it would be very difficult to live in this community and not hear about USON or see the impact that you all make.
Good.
So I really appreciate it. I think that our community is fortunate to have such an organization. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting. Some people know exactly what USON does, and some people have never heard of it. So
Yeah.
it always depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
I do have one additional plug. We have our spring gala fundraiser. It's our first ever, coming up May 10th at Takaw in Basalt. And then that's another one that I'm surprised how many people have never been to Takaw if they haven't been. It's an amazing venue. And in the past, we used to do fundraisers, golf tournaments, 5K runs, lots of little things. This is the first year that because we're growing so much, we're trying to keep up with the same rate of growth to support our staff that we're doing a bigger event. So if anyone out there listening is interested in supporting us by attending our gala, I'd be happy to give you more information. youthzone.com/spring-gala. So
Excellent.
thank you all for your support in whatever way you choose to give up.
And just to say, can you say that again, more quiet, like loud and
Yeah.
slowly?
It's hard.
The part about how they can attend the gala?
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's May 10th. The tickets are $300 per person, which I know is expensive, but it's a fundraiser. That basically, if you think about it, funds one of our substance programs. The website is youthzone.com/spring-gala.
Awesome,
And I'll leave one of these for you guys.
awesome.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you so much
so
for having us, and thank you for all the support that you give us.
And I don't know that we've met you before. Come on up.
Lynn Williams, Director of Operations at Youth Zone. So,
Excellent. Yeah,
just
thanks for coming this evening.
Doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, just making sure that all these things that we're talking about are functioning and then problem solving and managing and, just getting feedback as, it's good to have this information. And at the same time, it's a lot of problem solving on a daily basis. You come up with a good system and things are ready to roll. And then ultimately, there's a hiccup. And so just constantly trying to problem solve those things. So yeah, but things are feeling really good. And I think Ali did a wonderful job covering a lot of the big things. But I think at the end of the day, it's really just helping everyone really understand what we do and how we do it. And, I think that's not always clear to everybody. And at the end of the day, it's just, kids who are facing just sort of trouble or adjudication, we tend to be on that post side. And of course, we're working on the prevention side, but we spend a lot of time on the other side. And so we want to make sure we're doing that as good as we can. So
Excellent.
we appreciate any and all support you guys give.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I sat on the Aspen Institute Hearst Leaders Forum with your executive director, Jamie Hayes. And I cannot say enough good about her thoughtfulness, her creativity, her kindness and compassion. Her leadership, I can only imagine, is top notch. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
We're really proud of what Jamie's been able to achieve in the last year.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna move on. Our engineer, Ryan Gordon, podium with a Southbridge update and yeah, thanks.
Right. All right. Button. Aha. Okay. All right. I think I finally learned the technology here. Hello, City Council, Ryan Gordon, the city engineer. So this is predominantly going to be a update on the citywide projects. Southbridge is kind of in a quiet zone right now. We are working with Jacobs Consulting, our engineer, on getting a revised cost schedule fee to complete the process. We're still doing a bunch of stuff in the background, some right-of-way acquisition work, looking to refine the design and meeting with various folks. So not really much to update. I want to really focus on some of the citywide projects. And as you guys did on consent agenda, awarded a couple of the projects that I'm going to touch on. So wanted to give you guys an update of what's going to happen, this calendar year, essentially. So quickly, here's a map of the projects that we have ongoing this calendar year. I'm going to leave it up for just a quick second. You guys can sort of internalize as much as you can our map with all the projects. You can see we have a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on. I can always come back to this map, but I'm going to go on to some of the projects just as we talk through here. So, as mentioned, right on the consent agenda, Blake Avenue, phase 1 was, awarded today by you guys. We do have a DOLA grant that we got. This is a project that we are going to fully rebuild Blake from 24th to 27th Street. That includes work on 24th and 26th Street. We have brand new sewer going in on 24th, brand new water on 26th. All new storm system. There is no storm infrastructure at all in this neighborhood at all. So we're putting in all new storm system. Couple cool aspects is from 24th to 27th, that will now be a one-way street heading to the south. On the west side of the road, we're going to build a 10-foot concrete shared use path. Again, really to connect the BRT station at 27th Street to more of our infrastructure in downtown. I'm also going to be including in here new lighting for safety. Again, right now there's no lighting at all in the stretch of the city. And quite frankly, could be the worst streets in Glenwood. So the first phase of a couple for Blake. So that is actually probably going to kick off here in the next 2 weeks. Next Tuesday, we have a community meeting via Zoom to kind of allow citizens to have an opportunity to chime in. We've done a lot of outreach, so I think we're in good position for that project. Another project that is out on the street. So this is 6th Street and the North Landing project, the north part of town. Pretty big project that's going to include, again, a lot of the underground utilities. You know, one of our things is anytime we are ripping up roads, we're going to address anything underground that needs to be updated. So we have new stormwater infrastructure up there, some water, some sewer, electric and lighting infrastructure. Really, this project is to convert, you know, 6th Street was old Highway 82 essentially before Grand Avenue Bridge was constructed. It's kind of like a boulevard of a road. We're sucking in the road. We're adding in landscaping, a dedicated separated bike path, new pedestrian facilities, a lot of artistic components at the end of the pedestrian bridge. Is going to be kind of like a plaza. And then in conjunction with North Landing, which is our little pocket park, putting in a gazebo, a restroom, new lighting, and some art features. So it's been a really, really great project. This project is a 2-year project. We actually wanted to try to get this out to bid several months ago, but for a variety of reasons it couldn't, but it was still going to be a 2-year project. So this will be starting probably June-ish is probably the time frame, lasting through summer of next year. Done a lot of outreach with all the community members and the business owners. So will be a great project. I just want to emphasize that we will always have the road open for vehicles to go in and out to the Hotel Colorado, those businesses down to the pool. We're going to be working a lot with the contractor to make sure we have good traffic control plans, good pedestrian circulation plans, all that kind of stuff to really make sure that we're trying to make this as least impactful as possible. So another project we have going on, Downtown Alleyway Project, which is block 44 and 45. So this is on the east side of Grand Avenue between 7th and 8th Street. Got a lot of improvements in both the east-west direction and the north-south direction, putting in brand new surfaces. Right now it's dilapidated asphalt. We're going to come in there with concrete. We're planning on trying to remove everything we possibly can from overhead to underground, you know, whatever we can possible, whether it's Comcast or electric or whatnot. New storm system is going in there right now. If you go through now, there's lots of potholes that fill up with refuse and trash and whatnot. So we're going to clean that up. That we are in negotiation with a couple different contractors. Bids came in more than we anticipated. So we're doing some rework and we're bringing that back out to them. That will be built this summer, fall, and may bleed into some of next year, depending on how schedules go. But again, that's going to be a really great project. Also includes new lighting, if we can, to really bring in downtown, working a lot with DDA to make sure we're consistent with what they're wanting to do. Another little project, the Riverview Drive Stormwater Project. This is a really simple project, but we still have a section of the Atkinson Ditch Trail, or excuse me, Atkinson Ditch. It's not a trail, it's the ditch that functions as a stormwater system sort of in the Red Mountain neighborhood. It collects water and has standing water. It's a problem for insect vectors and whatnot and trash. So we're undergrounding that, piping that. That will be done this calendar year as well. Mentioned earlier on consent agenda. So the Devereaux Bridge, we're redecking that surface. It's in a pretty rough shape. So we're going to be doing that this summer. One thing to be aware of is obviously it's immediately adjacent to Two Rivers Park and is one of the conduits for whether it's people or emergency services. So we're working with the contractor to make sure that during Strawberry Days and during the 4th of July celebrations that we have that bridge open. In fact, the initial conversation with the contractor, they think they'll be done by 4th of July. But we've still worked with them to make sure that we have that access available, particularly for EMS and emergency services. All right, pump station 11,000. This is the big hole that was just recently filled in and it's kind of still a mess over out in front of the Petco area. So this is a new wastewater plant or wastewater pump station to pump to the wastewater plant. Increased capacity, increased redundancy, really, much needed project. They've done a lot of the work that will be done this summer. They have to build the building on top for some of the controls and whatnot, but that's progressing really well. So you'll see that project wrapping up soon. 3 Mile Confluence down kind of in the South Glenwood area. This is a project that has been in works for quite a few years, but really the gist of it is to armor the banks of the Roaring Fork River to sort of mitigate and reduce or eliminate the bank erosion. It also there is to do some invasive species removal of some of the weeds, do some riparian planting. Also in that area, there's still some of the historic Atkinson ditch, which is sort of a breeding ground again for mosquitoes and whatnot. So it's filling in that part of the ditch, taking out some stuff that's been around there forever. This is a pretty good project. We have a contractor on board, again, kind of, similar to other things, it's a little bit over budget. So we're trying to work to see where we can come in to meet the money that we have to do this project. Okay, moving along. So debris flow mitigation. So last year, if you remember, actually exactly 1 calendar year ago today, we had major mud flow, debris flow issues going on the west side of Glenwood. So Basin A above the water plant, Basin B, which is now above kind of landmark would be the new raft bus barn, C, which is above the wastewater plant, and Basin D above the Cardinal station. All 4 of these had significant major mud flow events due to, the cause of it is the forest fires over the year have loosened up the roots, et cetera, et cetera. They all slid and they're going to slide again. So we've been working with the NRCS and some others to repair these. Really, the goal of this project is really to protect critical infrastructure. We're putting in berms to divert any future debris flow. We're building detention basins to stop that mud and the dirt and to kind of filter out some of the clean water. We'll have some debris flow fences in certain areas and some slope stabilization, particularly above Basin A. We have these kind of separated into 2 different packages. So basins B through D, which again are sort of the western part of Glenwood, is one package, and that's on the street right now. And then pretty soon we'll do Basin A. Again, that's above the water plant. That should be coming out in the next couple weeks. Basin A will have some helicopter work to try to address some of that slope stabilization that is far up the draw. So that will be some exciting work happening later this year. We're going to finalize and finish our A-line breaks or access line breaks into I-70. Last year, we did this in West Glenwood at the end of Storm King Drive, where it meets I-70. We are doing this one at the end of West 1st Street here in North Glenwood. Again, these are to allow during emergency times, wildfires, et cetera, a way of getting more vehicles on or off of the interstate. This should happen by August. We're going to be doing that in-house. So when we have staff availability, we'll be doing this. We have all the permits and forms secured through CDOT and FHWA. So that will be a nice critical piece of our evacuation planning. And that's it. There's one other one that was on here that I don't have a slide for. We have a water pump station up at the Oasis tank above Oasis Creek that we're doing again to provide more redundancy and services. So that's kind of a snippet of the projects. I know I went through those very, very fast. So open up for questions and I'll throw in my handy dandy map here just in case you have any specific questions, ideas.
I'm going to jump in first. I don't usually do that, but I'm going to do it tonight. Did we complete the debris flow study then throughout town? I know we were working on updated debris flow studies.
Yeah, so there's one. So we've been working with FEMA to complete that. So they have preliminary information completed.
Okay.
We've had several conversations with them over the last couple of months about finding out more information to validate their models. My understanding, and my information is a little bit outdated, a couple of months, but my understanding is that we should get those preliminary maps within the next calendar year.
Okay.
And at least on their schedule, I think by 2026, those new FEMA maps will be adopted. And
Okay.
again, that will sort of help with the FIRM, so the flood insurance rate maps.
Absolutely. And so this isn't premature to do some of these debris flow basin mitigation projects?
No, because really those firm maps, while it does include these areas,
Mhm.
those are some of the more the basins that flow through, let's say, our residential areas.
Okay.
We really need to get this done.
Okay.
We're hyper aware that at any moment we could have another major debris
Yeah.
flow, and it really could impact critical infrastructure. For example, in Basin A, our water tank and our water plant were at risk, and
Mhm.
without some pretty heroic efforts by city staff, we could have had some more tragic outcomes. So this is something that really needs to be done as soon as humanly possible.
Okay, perfect. And then the alleyway between 7th and 8th to the east of Grand. I know that there's like kind of a movement to turn alleyways into more engaged active spaces. Are we working with some of the property owners to see if they want, to also do some improvements at the same time as the alleys? Like, how are we kind of navigating that?
Yeah, so predominantly the east-west directions
Mhm.
are what we're trying to do to coordinate and facilitate that movement through
Yeah.
them, right? The north-south ones really are the back of house areas for, on Block 44 example, docks and the springs.
Yeah.
And so we have been coordinating with them sort of on lighting aspects. There's not a lot of, let's say, amenities for those businesses. They don't have accesses from their businesses to the alleyways, but we are working with a lot of those businesses, particularly in the lighting aspect, to try to find a way of kind of reducing costs. And one of the challenges there is we don't really want to excavate too much.
Mhm.
So it's the old historic Glenwood. A lot of those businesses have substandard foundations or no foundations. So we're trying not to dig. And then in fact, we're putting down concrete so we don't actually have vibrations going on.
Okay.
But we have been working, predominantly with the DDA, and they're really our main arm of reaching out to the businesses, but everybody's on board and aware of what's going on.
Okay, great. And then the last question I have, and maybe it's more of a request, a very strong request, and that is Devereaux Bridge. That timing makes me a little nervous. I'll be honest. Like, I know you recognize like Strawberry Days,
Yep.
but if it's starting in June, that's 3 weeks to get it done. And I know how construction projects often are delayed.
Yeah. And a comment on that, so a lot of that work is driven by temperature.
Mhm.
You have to have minimum temperatures in order for the concrete to set and
Yep.
certain things to bind. And so that's really a challenge is when you start looking at the calendar,
Mhm.
it's June through September when you can do the work.
Yep.
But again, we've been working with the contractor very closely to make sure that we have that open.
Okay.
The reality is there will be times when it has to be shut down.
Mhm.
But we've been working with the chamber and Parks and Rec to make sure that, those critical days for those events, we do have the ability to get people across that bridge.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to move it on to Counselor Godus.
Yeah, what are the price tags for all these projects, Brian?
Well, they vary all over the place. I don't know if you want to pick one out. For example, Blake is right now at about a little over $3 million. The debris flow bait, and some of them they're just kind of estimates. We don't have a lot of true set costs in. The only ones we actually have contractor bids and awards are Devereaux Bridge and then Blake.
And we don't know Sixth Street. Do we have engineering estimates for Sixth Street?
Yeah, we do have engineers' estimates, and that kind of ranges from that $2.5 million to $4 million number. A lot of these are really challenging to estimate, right? Given our current climate, it still really hasn't settled down. So we have estimates for a lot of these, and we have, budgets set internally. Just like everything, if they come in above budget, we need to work to try to figure out how to bring them under. And we do have some ideas and strategies to kind of accomplish that.
So Sixth Street is 2.5 or 4 million.
Somewhere in that range. Now it's 6th Street and North Landing. So
Okay.
there's two aspects to that project.
And where's that getting funded out of?
So on 6th Street, we do have a grant with CDOT. The DDA has put in quite a bit of money for that. And then through our city funds, we are going to bring in the rest of that.
That's about $1 million, $1 million, $1 million.
The CDOT grant's $1.2 million, and there's a little bit of a match to that. I think it was a 75-25 match. And I don't have the details on the rest. Steve, I don't know if you have any on those.
It's okay. It's not this.
Millions.
About, yeah.
Okay. When did we decide we're making Blake one way between 24th and 27th?
So that's been working through the system. So we had this first discussion with the public back in June of last year. And as we've worked through that with various stakeholders, internally and with the neighborhood, that decision was reached.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Schechter.
Thank you, Ryan. The debris flow mitigation projects, are they going to affect access to Grandstaff or Wolfton during the season?
No, they're not. They are generally off of that. There will be some. So on Basin A, Grandstaff, the very bottom, we do have a berm that's going to be erected right now. The last, I don't know, half a dozen, 24 feet of that trail are going to be disrupted while we build that berm. But most of those trails will still be operational. Nothing in Wolfton or the area kind of above the meadows will be touched. Will be impacted by these. Quite frankly, all the 3 ones to the west, basins D, B through D, are accessed only off of the road that goes from Wolfton over to our wastewater plant. So it's really kind of only city staff will be, impacted by that from a traffic.
And Basin A, even though they're working, there'll still be public access to Golay and get Grandstaff at least up above?
Correct. Yeah. A lot of the work is being done to I guess that would be to the north of the trails, kind of north of the water plant in the existing channel. And then the major work will be what we're calling switchback 7, which is the switchback right after the water plant. 2 giant culverts, 2 42-inch culverts were blown out and destroyed. We're going back in there with a big concrete culvert. So that's going to be the kind of disruption, and that may cause some disruption for people who use the road. We're obviously in contact and we'll be working with the residents above that. But that might be the biggest disruption in that section.
Thank you.
Counselor Kaup.
Thanks, Ryan. Good list of projects, so it's great to see these getting done. I had one question on the A-line bank. You said we're doing that in-house.
That's correct.
How long does it take?
It doesn't take long. It's about a week. The challenge with the A-line brake projects is we need to have and close down 1 lane of I-70. So anytime we're doing work in the shoulder of I-70, CDOT safety regulations require traffic control.
Right.
Traffic control is that's not a specialty, but there's not a whole lot of approved traffic control companies. So we have to find them to get us into their schedule. That project not only includes a break at, let's say, the fence line between city and CDOT, then also includes construction of a road. It's really just a big gravel road in the middle of
gravel.
in the medians. But again, when we do that, we have to shut down 2 lanes of I-70.
Okay, and then there's going to be a gate like the one in West Glenwood.
It looked almost identical.
My only question was, with fire season really ramping up in late May, June, is there any way to move that up just for the sake of the community and having it in place earlier in the fire season? But I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I don't have specific schedule on that. I can bring that back, but I would agree. It's definitely on our high priority list as we start working our way out of winter season transitioning here. That will be a priority for us.
Okay, that was just my question. If we could, I think it'd be great. But thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Ryan. We appreciate you, your department. Thanks. This is a hefty lift, but definitely one that it makes sense on all of them, why we need it. And I look forward to seeing the projects completed.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, take care. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on. I'm guessing either Steve Boyd or Yvette. We're gonna do item number 15, ordinance 2024-06, which is a budget amendment number 2 in the year 2024.
Yep, thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor. Each year, after we pass the initial budget in November, we will do about 4 supplemental budget amendments for things that weren't included in the budget originally. Things that you guys asked us to do after the start of the year, and then sometimes something that I forget to put in the budget. So that's what this is.
Do we have any questions? Then I'll look for a motion to approve it. Counselor.
Just real quick, this is an ordinance. Do you have?
Yeah.
Oh,
public-
there's
public rec,
public-
yeah.
thank you. Okay, perfect. I always
And then,
forget that
um,
on the first one. So we will open this up to public comment. Item number 15. Do we have any public comment regarding the budget amendment? We'll go ahead and close the public comment then, and I will get back to Counselor Dunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, I'd like to move that we approve ordinance 2024-06 budget amendment 2.
Counselor Zawadzki.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 16. This is for the award RFP 2023-36P for trash, restroom, and mowing services.
Yes, ma'am. We did a work session on this a little bit earlier today, and we're proposing to outsource some services in our Parks Department. And then we will include the budgetary impact in the next amendment that we do, which is going to be at the end of the second quarter. So we're just asking that we go ahead and award this RFP so that we can negotiate details with the contractor and get them on board.
Perfect. Questions? And motion. Counselor Cope.
I would like to make a motion that we approve award RFP 2023-36P for trash, restroom, and mowing services, and that we take the funding, how did that break out? Sign the 50% of the 7.5% tourism transfer that will go towards this, and also take the rest of the, is it $231,000 remainder impact to the general fund budget come out of the tourism fund reserves that are held in the general fund, and that I would also include as part of that, this approval, that we set a future work session to discuss 2025 and onward funding for this item.
And I'll look for a second.
I would like to second that motion as stated.
Okay, any discussion? We have a motion by Counselor Kaup, a second by Counselor Zelinski. Counselor Godus.
I'll just say really briefly, I think this is a great use for those funds. I think that, the visitors and the tourism industry definitely have an impact both on parks, on trails, open space, certainly housing. And so I think that, it's not a stretch to utilize those funds for this purpose. So I'll be a yes vote.
Great. Any additional comments? Then I'll call the question.
It passes unanimously.
Perfect.
Thank you, Council.
We will move on then. I think, our development director, Hannah Klausman, is going to come up. This is item 17, West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition Buy Down Program.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to load the presentation that we had earlier in the work session for reference, but not go through it. Just in case you have any questions that we want to specifically point out. And I'd also welcome Heather Henry, who is on the board of West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition from Carbondale. She's going to help me answer more questions from you guys momentarily. Great. So I'll just take a moment to introduce the coalition to the public. This is West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, which Glenwood Springs is a founding member, and I serve on the board as Glenwood Springs liaison for you. We also have Counselor Kaup, who serves on the board as a RAFTA representative as well. And as I mentioned, Heather Henry is here with us tonight as well. And let's see if I can make this. Just gonna load the mission of West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition. I know you guys are all familiar. This also has the membership that is currently on the board, which includes Glenwood Springs, Carbondale, Basalt, Snowmass Village, City of Aspen, Eagle County, Pitkin County, Colorado Mountain College, and Roaring Fork Transit Authority as our newest member. So tonight, West Mountain Regional is in front of you, talking about the Regional Deed Restriction Purchase Program with a request for funding. And I will turn it over to Heather and be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the slides teed up. Frankly, I think April went through a lovely and exhaustive presentation of those slides. So I am happy to leave as much time as possible to either continue answering some questions or talk through some of the questions that you all had previously. You've seen the data related to the need. You've seen the programs we're looking to launch. Specifically this evening would be a request for funding for the Good Deeds program, which is informally called our buy down program. So that is a buy down amount of money that essentially purchases a deed restriction on existing homes within the jurisdiction of the coalition, which is from Pitkin County all the way through the Roaring Fork Valley and all the way through the Colorado River Valley to Parachute. So you've heard our timing. We're trying to launch this program in June. This is something we're ready to go. We're ready to put sneakers on the pavement. April has a list of folks that are interested in this program. And we're really excited and hopeful that you guys will be another member ready to commit to this out of the gates as our pilot program for 2024, 2025. So with that.
Yeah, bring it back to council for any questions.
Yes, please.
Any questions? And if not, I would, Hannah, do you have anything you wanna? Okay. If there are questions, I would love to hear them prior to, or I will look for a motion and we can begin a discussion. Counselor Weimer.
Heather, one thing we didn't talk about before, right? In your fundraising efforts, I think your goal was 3 million. What was your goal for this year?
So we're hoping to reach 3 million from members and then matching 3 million from philanthropic and grant applications, et cetera. So additional 3 million.
So inside of that, do you have a go, no go figure? Like if you don't.
One buy down. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
Okay.
right? With what we have committed from Snowmass and Carbondale at this point, they're ready to go. They're ready to sign a contract. We'll
Okay.
go. We'll
Okay.
launch.
So it's
one buy down.
it
but-
scales that cleanly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because our staff is on board, April, who you met, you know, we're not having to, and that's a critical component of how we answered certain questions, et cetera. We'll learn a lot by doing one buy down. We'd like to do 10 more.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Question? Okay, Counselor Schachter.
It would be a question for Hannah, if I may. And it might have to do with how I would pose a motion. Has this been run by Housing and 2C, our commissions, in terms of information and enthusiasm or feedback, even though they're not directly involved? It's definitely indirectly involved.
It has been a discussion with the Workforce Housing Advisory Board. I'm not recalling immediately if we've brought this to the Housing Commission itself. But we did bring it to WFAB to kind of discuss that the parameters of funding and go through how this isn't necessarily set up currently for 2C funding. So it would be something from the general fund. But we didn't craft a recommendation from either of those commissions.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Godus.
Are we doing questions, comments, and motions?
Questions?
Oh, I thought you
Yep.
said we could do motion.
No, I said wrap up questions, but if you are done, there's no one else in queue for questions. So you're welcome to go to comments and or a motion.
Okay, so I have a couple questions and then I'll have a couple comments if there's no other questions. Okay, thanks. Steve, if we fund this and then say one of the first projects out of the gate is like, whoa, just happens to be in Glenwood Springs. Can we use 2C funds to reimburse that 200,000?
Mhm.
I'll look to my left here, but I think the answer is no.
That's what the left is. Even if the 200,000 goes to provide workforce housing in Glenwood Springs?
I think the issue we have here is we're just kind of, it's a regional program. If our donation is only dependent on it happening here, it kind of misses.
Mhm.
I think it's not honoring QC, and I also think it misses the request for funding that is going on.
So my question is, we funded at 200,000 from whatever source. 6 months from now, 6 days from now, ding, 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 we have a great project on Cotton Drive, for example. Can we use 2C funds to reimburse that? Because that would meet all the guidelines for 2C, wouldn't it?
It would, but then we would have to have something from the coalition that said your $200,000 was used in Glenwood. It's a big pot of money. Maybe they'd want to do that. Maybe they wouldn't. I wouldn't rely on that being the outcome.
Okay,
And
I'm
like I
just,
said,
I'm looking for flexibility to see.
I know, and I normally try to give you as much as I can. I think this one is just a little hard because it's kind of tough to trace that money back. And I think that it is, I think it would be uncomfortable if Picken County said that $2 million, we're only going to tag our funds. You know what I mean? Like I think.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that would not be part of my motion. That would not be part of anything. I'm saying is 6 months from now, after this is done, we've committed.
If I may.
Yes, please.
So staff did include a little bit in the fiscal impact side of your staff report. Kind of with this in mind, we've got an interesting situation where we have 2C funds, as Carl mentioned, has very specific dedication requirements, and we need to make sure that we're abiding by that. The plan from staff, with whatever the outcome is tonight, whatever you're comfortable with or not comfortable with, there is a concept that's within West Mountain, as well as the other jurisdictions are looking at, is the ability for these targeted funds to possibly match funding later. That is something that staff wants to bring back to our WFAB board for a recommendation, obviously, as they're looking at those fundings. And so that would be the criteria based. That's not an initial startup funding, and it's certainly not something of like reallocating the money back. But I think that there may be opportunities for us to evaluate other funding mechanisms once the program is up and running and is actually getting these deed restrictions in place for an opportunity where it does actually meet those particular criteria that we have for 2C. So that is something that staff is continuing to analyze in tandem with our attorney to make sure that that would be okay. But that's where I would leave that right now.
Okay. So I guess I'll go to a few comments.
Hold on one second. If there are comments, my question is.
Oh, sorry.
Do you have a question? Okay, then I'm gonna.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, it was just a
Let's
question
stick
that
to
was
questions for.
raised by that last statement. So the way I understand the Good Deeds program is that that goes into housing stock. So would there be the 2C money, if it went to go buy that and then it goes in, then it goes back into the general. So there is like a legacy, possible legacy concern, because then that would go into the general thing. So then it could end up being a regional housing solution, but not a Glenwood housing solution. But if 2C got it into the inventory, then it could go back into the general. You see what I'm saying?
Are you asking about at like a point of resale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm really, really a proponent of the Good Deeds. I like the idea of that. I think 2C is a really different animal, and that was agreement of good faith with the community to keep that specifically Glenwood Springs. And so I just would, I guess, make a pitch that designation remain very clear.
And to be clear, the ask tonight.
I know the clear. I'm just, there's a lot of 2C conversation, and I feel like these are not, they don't belong in the same space. And I'm trying really hard to like make that clear that this should not be a 2C conversation. This is only about this specific thing. I think we muddy the waters big time when we start talking about 2C funds. And so I'm trying to be diplomatic and
Understood.
say.
And certainly it's not something that we propose to the WFAB board that is tasked with making recommendations to you. So I think if you guys want to take that conversation out of this proposal tonight and just view it from other funding sources, that would be very appropriate.
Counselor Schachter.
So nice segue, thank you. What are our funding options, Steve? Should we choose to fund this at whatever level, how many options do we have for sources?
I think we probably have the option of general fund reserves. I'll give it some thought, and if I can find another option, I'll bring it back to you guys, but I think that's where we should allocate the funds from now.
Thank you.
So my preference before we move forward on discussion is that we do have a motion on the table, which is nice standard policy and practice. So I would look for a motion, a second, and then we'll open the floor up to discussion. Counselor Goes.
I will make a motion. And my motion is that since this is a one-time ask and not continuous, that I would move to provide the 200,000 for the Western Regional Housing Coalition with the funds to come from the tourism reserves.
I'm sorry, what reserves?
The tourism reserves. Okay. So my comment, can I make a comment? Because I wanted to make.
Because there's not a motion on the table. That it died for lack of second. Counselor Schachter.
My motion would be slightly different. I understand the ask is for 200,000. My motion would be that we commit $100,000 at this time from the general fund reserves for this program with the consideration as soon as we enter our next budget cycle, and also based on specific recommendations or or endorsement from both housing and 2C commissions to get broader support for this, and also time to see feedback from the regional coalition as to what is happening, that we be prepared to commit another 100,000 if we're happy with those three sources of feedback.
And a second for that. Okay,
Second.
you want a second? Okay,
I'm lit up.
so we have a motion
Second.
on the table from Counselor Schachter. We have a second from Counselor Godus. I will open the floor up to discussion. Counselor Cope.
I was going to make an alternate motion to that. I would propose, I'd like to see us go with the $200,000 level of funding. I think we have reserves to put that in. I believe this is a good show of support for the regional program. And really, it's about preservation of housing. We heard from the realtor community in the last 2.5, 3 years that a lot of people coming in and buying up homes in our valley, and particularly in our community, have been from out of town. They're investors. It's driven up the prices. They've skyrocketed. And so many of our locals have lost the ability to set down permanent roots and stay in the community long-term. This program is all about preserving homes that are in the valley, in Glenwood Springs, in between Glenwood Springs, Carbondale, up valley, down valley, but preserving homes for locals to live, set down roots, raise families, but stay here long-term. And it buys that down. It buys down that deed restriction forever, basically, for as long as that home exists. So it's an investment in the valley. It's an investment in, and this is a kind of a pilot test project, but I'd like to see Glenwood Springs be in more at the level of towards the ask, and then consider funding it more. So I would ask that there would be an amendment to up the donation at this time. If not, I'm not saying that I won't support it. I think I'll support it because I have a feeling that our housing commission will come back, but I'd like to see us make a larger donation.
Counselor Godus.
Yes, I'll I'll keep my comments hopefully a little brief. I think that, one of the problems I have with this proposal, and it's not going to keep me from voting against it, but the buy down part, you just get so little bang for your buck. I mean, we have, to buy it down $300,000, as I said, in our work session, still doesn't make a property in Glenwood affordable for anybody that's not making $200,000. And so I question that portion of it. I like the ADU thing as long as it's tied to workforce and affordability. I like the other parts of it. So, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I also, a lot of other communities, not a lot of other communities, a number of other communities who've been doing this longer than us. Some are at 3%, some are at 2%. Several are at 0% appreciation, excuse
Thank
me.
you. That's what I was looking
Yeah,
for.
sorry. In my mind, I knew where it's going. And I think it gets to the philosophical question of, is this about home ownership or is this about wealth creation? And I think that in the near term, 5 years from now, even 10 years from now, 3%, 3%, 3% on a $700,000 house, probably not a big deal. But 3%, 3%, 3% on a $700,000 house 20 years from now, all that does is drive the unaffordability higher and higher. You already have to make 200,000, according to the slide, to afford a $600,000 house as it is. So I look at it as, if we're in the business of wealth creation this is going to be a program that's going to be a great program, but it's going to be very specific. It's going to impact very, very few people. It's kind of like winning the lottery. They call it the housing lottery, right? For a reason. And so I think adding such a financial windfall when you only need 3% down with a USDA loan, that's 100% return on your money every year. And so I would love to see that much lower because it keeps affordability in the program, even if we go 1% and allow a little of that. So that would be my preference, but that's just feedback and not necessarily something that's going to impact my vote. Right now we have 3 homes for sale in Glenwood Springs that are under $1 million, and 2 of them look like tear downs. So they're just in the inventory right now. And so that's going to be a huge challenge. But, on the good side, Glenwood's going to probably benefit the most from this. This is where we have the most houses in the valley. This is where if there were going to do a buy down or look at ADUs, this is probably, we have the easiest, most liberal ADU laws. So I would say we'll probably get first crack at benefiting from this program. And like Destination 2040, the RAFTA initiative several years ago, that was Aspen and the Up Valley communities were the donor communities because there's so much more property tax. We already see Pittman County's putting in 2 million. So I think that 100,000 or, Shelley, in your case, 200,000 is a decent price to pay in when so many people are putting in so much more, and we'll probably be the ones to benefit the most. So I think that's important. The reason I made the original motion, I want to explain that, is because the FAB recommended 40% reserve amount is being stressed this year. We have, the reason I asked, with this laundry list of wonderful things we have from Mr. Gordon, is, we got at least $8 million of projects coming up this year. Every 2 million is about 10% of our reserve. So we're going to be spending down that reserve as it is. We also have a $2 million ask from the Shoshone water or power plant coming before us. So yeah, compared to $8 million worth of road projects and $2 million for Shoshone, this doesn't seem like a lot. But when you add, it's this and it's that. So I'm looking for other ways and other rational nexuses to fund the impacts and these pots of monies that we can do without testing and really draining our reserves. So that was the reason I put that forward, because I'm looking for other pots of money. And there is a rational nexus in that. The state has already said last year with Senate Bill 1117 that this is a good use of housing. Childcare is a good use of this. So I would love if folks were willing to take that out or consider that at a future point. I think that is maybe part of, Shelley, our future work session about where these pots of money come from, because our reserve is not going to stay healthy very long. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Counselor Zelinski.
So I fully agree that we should be looking at future pots of money. I think that, I trust Steve to figure out where this money should come from. And if the tourism reserves is the proper place, then I think he'll come back to us. And so that's why I didn't want to second your motion. This is not just homes. It's not just like single family homes. You can do a condo, you can do a townhome. So there's different levels of pricing. And it's also all of Garfield County. So it's not just Glenwood Springs. It could be Newcastle. It could be Sill, right? It's regional. It's Garfield County. It is. So there are options. When I bought my house, it was not affordable to me, but my husband and I made it work. When you want to live somewhere that's a little bit special, you figure out a way to make it work. We are just giving people a leg up. I think that we are over analyzing this a little bit just because you can't see everything. And so I'm really in support of this as a first step. I've been watching Eagle County since before I got on city council because I was an employer. So I know what it feels like to not have people to recruit. When I found out that our local engineering firm couldn't get engineers because they can't afford to live here, that seems like a shock to me. So I think that we really need to recognize really the nature of what we're trying to accomplish and that it's kind of a little bit unprecedented. And so put a different lens on things and be a little bit more open. I do have one quick question, and it came from something Jonathan said. Talking about property values, like we don't necessarily see the market receding, but when you say like a 3%, is it 3% guaranteed or is it capped at 3% for like increase in value?
Capped at 3%.
Okay, so if the market recedes, then it would be equal to market value kind of a thing. So you're not going to be like safe with this little, it's going to do kind of with what the market does.
That's correct. And that's where the buy down program is a long game.
Exactly.
Also.
Exactly. So
Maybe we do see this constriction and then have people who are ready to really jump on a program like that.
got it. So yeah, that's all I had as far as comments go. I think I would actually ask for an amendment to the motion to increase it back up to the 200,000, if that could be considered, but I'll wait till there's the rest of the comments.
Let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead and have people who have not spoken yet, go ahead and speak. And then once we've all had a chance. So Counselor Dunn.
Thank you. All right, let's see. I think, so this is the cliche, how do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
Right? How do you eat an elephant? It's the cliche. You eat it one bite at a time. And I think this is just another feather in the cap. I know it may not, what you said earlier, be the goal of us to provide housing for a certain income level, but we can have more than one goal. And this, I think, will serve the broader community, the regional housing shortage. I think it would help all of us to do this. I also think we should go up to 200,000. So I'm asking you as well, just like Councilor Zelinski, to amend that. Other than that, I like everything I heard. I agree with all of your comments. I think it's a great idea to let Steve tell us where this money should come from. Maybe we split it up. Maybe it can come from multiple funding sources. But in general, I'm in favor of it. And I think there was something else, but I don't remember it right now. So that's it. So 200,000, I'd be in favor.
Any comments?
I guess I would just say, we talk a lot about housing being a regional problem. We now have a bit of a regional approach to the solution here. It's not perfect. But we can't let that be a downfall, right? That it's not perfect. It's good. Eagle County has shown some validity. It feels like we've got really good people in the game, right? Like you guys today, I thought were just super smart and super passionate, and that's helpful too, right? I would not want to touch tourism money for this. I hope that's safe. I would do the 200,000 as well, I think, as a proposed amendment. Thank you.
Want to jump in before we
Sure,
do
I'll
round
comment
two?
in a minute. I
Oh,
will-
no. I didn't say. No, I said I'm gonna jump in. Yeah. And then you will. No, I didn't even, I didn't, yeah, but no.
Figure one out.
I did. My finger did go up. I'm gonna jump in and say also that I'm comfortable going up to the 200,000. Big picture, I don't love this idea, but I also feel like it's a regional solution. And it's the start of something. It's like you're designing the wheel. And so I think it can be fine tuned as it goes down the road. And I hope that, I think the reality is that if people had a choice, they would not do this program. Because I know that our equity on our home that we built in 2016 is significantly more than 3% per year. And I would absolutely, I feel quite a bit of gratitude that we were able to buy at the time we are. And yet I also know that I get complaints from people who say it's, 6 weeks or 2 months out to see my neurologist. Well, that's because they can't get the staffing that they need. And the challenge is all throughout the community for not having this missing middle of professionals who aren't maybe making 200, 300,000 a year. Maybe they're not coming in from having sold a house in another community where they're coming in with 400,000 in equity that they can put down on a new home. The idea that I hear so often of, gosh, we saved up, we scrimped, we ate macaroni and cheese for months to be able to come up with the down payment for our house. Yeah, and proportionately, I absolutely commend those people. We were those people. But the pricing in this community has gotten out of control. I saw a 2-bedroom apartment just last week for $2,600 a month. That's double what my husband and I pay for our house payment. It's not sustainable. And then you want to have people have a quality of life where they can go to their kids' soccer game instead of having a second and third job. We have professionals in government who work second jobs at Lowe's. And so I don't know that this is the perfect fix. And I hope that it's a start. And to Councilor Dems, I hope it's a bite out of the elephant. And I hope it works. And I too will be receptive to a $200,000 contribution. And for the naysayers out in the community, let's talk numbers. Let's go back in time to 1985 or 90 when you bought your house, and let's look at your salary to the cost of housing. And now let's compare it, because disproportionately the cost of housing is overinflated and salaries have not kept up. And then you look at all the other costs. And yes, I know that, you could say, well, not everybody had a luxury car. Well, a lot of people in this community can't afford that either. So it's not perfect, and very few things in the world are, and certainly in government. So, but I'm going to support it if I can see an increase in the contribution. So I'll move on to Councilor Schechter.
Well, I will amend with reservations and comments. My reservations came up in the workshop. The very reason we need this program, we think we do, because of market forces, are the very same reasons why I am skeptical about its effectiveness. Because the homes that this will affect will create mortgages of $3,500 to $5,000 a month, far exceeding even the ridiculous rents in this valley. And I'm skeptical about who will benefit. My skepticism is a reason for a partial funding. Say, okay, come back to us, Heather. Let's see who else has funded this, whether the matches come in, and what are our first applications like? If there's no inventory in Glenwood to sell, where's it going to be? Those are the basis. And there's a big windfall for somebody making, we say, oh, well, if I make $1 million, I don't need a buy down. You take the present value of $300,000 or more that you don't have to pay for a house, and you're making 6-7% compounded on that. There's a huge future value benefit to that buy down. So there's a lot of mixed things, and I want Heather and the Western Regional to work those out. And so I'm looking for I will amend because I get the consensus of council, but I will also ask still for feedback from our housing and feedback from our workforce 2C group. And fairly soon, feedback from Heather about what's the level of funding? Did we get the match we wanted, and who has applied and where with specific demographics? Hopefully, as soon as you know them, I would say within 3 to 6 months at the very latest. So I will amend my motion for the $200,000, subject to the appropriation at the discretion of our city manager.
Okay, so I'll need to see the second amended. I believe that was by Jonathan. Hold on one second. Oh, you want to talk?
I will second and a few comments or questions as well.
So we have a motion that's been amended. We have
And
a
a second.
second that's
That's
been amended. And I'll let Jonathan or Counselor Gotis jump in.
So when we talk about the cap of 3% going up every year, when the market goes down, does that cost basis go down as well? And then, okay, so yes, I know, but I ask it better. No, so if say a $900,000 house is bought down to 600,000, it goes up 3%, yada, yada, it's now 650. And then the market takes 10% off. Now it's 590,000. The cost basis goes down to 590, and now they have to start building at 3% again from the 590. How does that work?
No, I think what Heather is mentioning is it's capped at 3%, but if the whole market is at 0, this will also be at 0.
Right. So the concern I have is that it's a guaranteed 3%. Because,
No,
well,
it's-
No, and we
Market-
specifically looked at Eagle County because Eagle County gave us very specific advice in regards to this, and we discussed it as a board because they experienced this very same thing at a guaranteed 3%. And then guess what happened? Then it was no longer 3% in the free market, and it was a flaw that they saw that they advised us on. That's all I can say. I'm also not an economist.
so I misspoke when I said guaranteed. You're guaranteed not to lose money. Because it's either flat. If the market goes down 10%, what happens that year? What happens the next year?
I mean, they
Yeah,
essentially
exactly.
operate, because they are RO, they essentially operate like a free market unit. So if the whole market goes down, the value of that property will go down. So you can no longer sell it at $600,000. You have to sell your home at $500,000. Your question about then when the new buyer, then the new buyer has to go through all of our eligibility requirements. And presumably then they're buying this home at $500,000 now, right?
But the house isn't worth 500,000. The house is worth 900,000.
But you're saying it went down. Not only did we do we bought the deed restriction.
Right.
So that bought it down to 600,000, and then the market tanks.
Right.
It's now worth $500,000.
No, sorry. If the market went down $100,000,
Yes.
right? Just say the market went down $100,000. Now the house is worth 800,000, let's say.
But no, that home is no longer worth $900,000 or $800,000. We have purchased the deed restriction, which has made the value of that home $600,000. There's no $900,000 anymore.
It's capped.
It is.
It drops the price to that lower threshold and can only increase 3% up.
From
It can never go, and it can go down, but it drops it. So $1 million house becomes $700,000. If they sold it the next day, they could sell it for $700,000 or 3% above $700,000 if they can find a buyer to buy it.
Okay, now, again, maybe I'm just not understanding. So
Yeah.
thank you for your patience,
Yeah,
everybody.
it's okay. We
But-
like it when you understand.
But the house is still worth
Nope.
No.
It is not.
Because of the deed restriction.
Okay, hold on a sec. I had friends that went through the Garfield County deal. They bought their house in 2008 in Iron Bridge on Foxfront.
Okay.
And when the recession hit, they did not lose money because that house, even during the recession, was worth $100,000 more than they paid for it. They did not get to see that $100,000, but they never went below that because the house. Yes, there's a deed restriction, but that doesn't mean the property is not worth $900,000. That means the deed restriction
without reading, so deed restrictions are all over the board.
Yeah.
So without like reading someone's deed restriction, I can't, speak to like a particular case study. They're so different. They're all over the place. So the way we are set up, someone is still at risk on their property so that their value could drop. Now, potentially, even when the free market dropped, someone there wouldn't see their property drop because as compared to the free market, their 3-bedroom, 3-bath home was still easily worth $600,000 because the one next to it was on the free market for $700,000, whatever. But when we purchase that deed restriction, that home is no longer worth $900,000.
You could never sell it. No, I understand you can never sell it for that, but my point is that if the deed restrictions is 600,000,
Yes.
someone's gonna pay 603,000 the next year, even if the market tanked 30%.
As long
Only
as
if
they
they
qualify.
pay that much.
As long as they qualify.
As long as
And
they
so my point is they have the upside guaranteed, but they have almost something even more catastrophic than the Great Recession. They have the downside protection because there's such a buffer because of the buy down.
Yes. Now
Yeah.
you're,
Yeah,
now you're spot
And
on.
actually, if I may,
Yes.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm personally opposed to these is I saw far more people during the Great Recession with deed restricteds who went into foreclosure because nobody would touch their product because you could get a free market unit for
less.
cheaper or for
Absolutely.
less than the sale price. So I think there's risk on
Both
both
sides.
sides.
There
Right.
is.
Let's see, I think Ingrid, I'm just kind of curious. You said, hey, I have some issues with it. I think that'd be good feedback because I think this group is still asking and trying to fill that. So I'd be interested to hear kind of what some of those, particularly as a realtor, on what some of those things might be. Thanks for working through that with me, by the way, guys,
Yeah.
everybody. And just another question. So the way this is set up, it's a regional thing. So we could in the regional coalition could invest in a place, house, condo, whatever, in Glenwood. And then somebody could work wherever they wanted to in the valley.
Correct.
Is it in the valley? Can they work down to Rifle? Like where is the max that they could work for?
Yeah, so our eligibility checklist that I think was in the packet. It is our our service area. They have to work within the coalition service area. So it's from Aspen to Parachute. So they can also work in Parachute and live here or work here and use this program to buy down in Silt. That was the whole
So it's
like conversation around regional.
right. So Silt and Parachute, are they members of the coalition as well?
Or not.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
That's our long-term vision. We hope to bring them on board along with all of our counties.
I think to answer Jonathan's question, some of my apprehension is that we are giving a huge amount of money to very few units. And I oftentimes wonder if we have this collective ability to move forward, what else could we do with it? And if we're appropriating it to one thing and then another opportunity comes up, we have lost that opportunity because we're tying up money here. I also think that what may end up happening, because I'm a bargain shopper to my soul, is that we might end up, you guys might say, we have 10 applications. 2 are in Glenwood and they need $600,000. And the other 7 are in Rifle and they need $600,000. And all of a sudden you guys see bang for your buck that way instead of getting people here. And one of the biggest things that our constituents tell us about are traffic challenges. And the minute we get our workers living here, we reduce a few more cars potentially in town. And so that is something, it's not a real estate perspective. It's simply saying, I like to have our workers live where they work. I also, the contribution, I don't have a problem with some deed restrictions. And I actually think that the integration within a community is, for the sake of community, is so much stronger when you have a house here and a house here. nobody's gonna know, really. You're gonna have a next door neighbor who moved in, and they're not gonna get labeled like the poor people, right? Oh, everybody knows that whole street and wherever. I wasn't gonna say that. I wasn't gonna, I know I was gonna say that, yeah. But I don't want that. I want people to just feel like this is my neighbor. And there's no labels attached to that. Simply because a lot of the housing market right now is chance. It's hard work, but it's also just when you buy. If for some reason you had to wait and pay off your student loans for a couple years and you thought, let's pay off our student loans before we buy. Dang, bad investment. You should have flip-flopped that. Should have bought a house and paid off your student loans later. Because the timing that we have seen from 2019 prices to 2024 prices is so infinitely high. And that's my problem too. I saw this gigantic jump, and that's when we're going to invest, where I do wonder if timing in the market, we lost some units, I think in possibly Hannah's neighborhood, that were purchased as affordable housing units, designated deed restriction, and we lost them because of the Great Recession. And so I see all of the intricacies. Is that true?
It's partially true.
Okay.
They are still restricted for resident occupancy. They
Okay.
just, the deed restriction to affordability went away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the clarifying. And that was a council decision. So anyway, but you also heard me say that I'm going to support this because I also think that right now, with all of the other variables in mind, I would much rather try something, even if it's not perfect. Counselor Schachter.
Just try to answer John's question, and I don't know how detailed you are, Hannah, but I was looking at the Eagle restrictions. The appreciation, they've tied theirs to their local average wage increases. I don't know what you're gonna, so what they're saying is it can be no greater than 3% a year. If wage increases are negative, then it will be negative that year, but maybe not negative forever. So it's a little bit more complicated, but can never be more than 3% a year. No.
Counselor Gotis.
Yeah, I guess I just talked myself out of supporting this because I think that we've had 2C funding for almost 2 years now. We have almost $3 million in the bank, and the very first significant dollars we're going to spend on affordable housing from Glenwood Springs is going to go, I thought was going to potentially go for somebody to have a house in Glenwood Springs and commute and work up in Aspen. But I just can't, and I was going to swallow that. But the idea that we would build housing here, the coalition would, and somebody would go and then work and support the economy and employers in non-member communities on the hope that someday there'll be a member, because we're working on it. Ask Rafta how's that's working with Silt and Rifle and Garfield County and Parachute. 30 years they've been trying to get those communities to be part of the group. And 30 years I've been hearing, oh, the next election, or they'll come along. They never have. So Silt and Rifle still get service, but they get 10 buses a day. They don't get service every 20 minutes like we do in member agencies of Rafta. So but for that, I would still swallow and support it, but I just cannot support building housing down valley to support their workforce and not Glenwood Springs workforce.
Counselor Zelinski.
You already have a list of people who are interested. And where are those people looking to purchase and where do they work? Just roughly, just give me just like generalities.
Generally from Carbondale down in terms of where they're looking, I couldn't respond. I mean, some of the case studies April, as she has the list, has talked about, some of their sort of stories are they're living and working down valley. primarily.
So living and working down valley?
Yes,
And then non-member communities?
I don't know the answer to that.
And that's okay.
Just because I remember it from April's presentation, she did roughly say about 50% of the people that she's had interested in are from Glenwood.
That's what I thought I remembered. That's what I thought I remembered. It was like, at least initially in this initial rollout, we are actually still impacting some future hypothetical. Yep, I do think that the reality is the bite we're trying to take out of the problem is going to immediately impact our current residents and employees.
Counselor Schachter.
Just one more quick question, if I may, if I understood you correctly. This reminds me a little bit of like an Oklahoma land rush with limited home sites. This is hopefully gonna be good to go in June. But it'll be open, publicized and open for everybody. There's no, oh, I can apply in April. No, if the gates can open, then the first ones in the gate get the first shot as reviewed by your board. Is that correct? Is that?
Yes.
So until that opens, everybody has an equal shot at it. All right, that's my only question at this point. I'd go ahead and move the question.
I've got Counselor Kelp, and then I'm gonna say something, and then we'll call the
I
question.
just had a point of order question. If Jonathan, I believe he was the second,
Mhm.
are you withdrawing your second?
Well, that's a good question. Counselor Gotis.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
I don't need to make a whole new motion or anything like that.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna mention one thing, and that is in all of my apprehension, I really am stronger and stronger believer in looking at the experts in the room and trusting those people who have committed their careers to understanding situations. So Hannah's recommendation and support of this weighs heavily, and so I will be supporting it. So I will call the question.
Counselor Zelinski, yes. Ingrid Russo, yes. Jonathan Godes, no. Marco Dame, yes. Mitchell Weimer, yes. Shelley Kelp, yes. Sumner Schachter, yes. The motion passes 6-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we will move on. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We'll come back right at the top of the hour. I guess it's more like a 7-minute break, but that's cool. No, we have no. Okay. Sure.
Because it went to.
It's not here.
Thanks. She'll get back. It's 8 o'clock. We've been gone for long enough. We are back in session. It is 8 o'clock. And we're moving right along to our item 18, resolution 18, temporary location extension for mobile businesses. I don't know who is.
That's
who's-
me.
Okay, great.
And maybe a little bit of help from Hannah.
Okay.
A lot of help from Hannah. Thank you, council. What you have in front of you is resolution 2024-18. We had some discussion at the last meeting about trying to do a pilot program regarding mobile services that were not food trucks, which is the only thing we have in place right now. So Hannah and I got together and kind of worked through what we thought would work for a 1-year pilot program, which is what you have in front of you. Couple of things that may be open for discussion that you might want to tweak. We assumed you would want to see every application at the council level. I'm not anticipating a bunch, but certainly it would be easier for Hannah to administer if she just had the authority to deal with those, but that's up to you guys. The other one that you might, and that 6-month renewal of that would have to come back to you as well. The other one is we set the permit fee at $500. Part of my reasoning in that is that we have these shorter term ones that are around $200. This is for a half a year, so that seemed appropriate at $500. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We also limited it to 5 permits, which was kind of the discussion of like, let's just try this out and see how it works. No use of public rights of way or public property for these. They would have to figure something out with a private landowner, like the one, the Barber bus that we have right now that's working with some landowners out in West Glenwood, and I had a conversation with him. He was talking about maybe trying to do something on the south side of town too, just so that it was available on different days in different areas for the public. So with that, happy to answer questions.
Counselor Deb.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of my questions. It has to be on public land. That's
Well, it
number
has to
one.
be on private land. not-
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Private land, absolutely. And the other question is, the reason we did not address this like food trucks is because food trucks is more of a even more temporary kind of thing, where this is more of a long-term.
Well, I mean, I guess, and Hannah can speak to the permits that go with the food trucks. What this would normally, this kind of thing would fall into the, a temporary permit, which is 14 days, and you can only have a maximum of 3 per year. Food trucks are actually licensed for a longer period of time underneath, 050.
Yeah, the food trucks have a stipulation that they have to return to their commissary kitchen for, I think it's 3 days out of the year. So that's why we have it set up. They can renew 3 times. It covers a whole year, but not every day of the year. Those are longer, if that's what you're asking.
I'm just trying to find the difference between a barbershop and a food truck. Because they're both mobile, they're both temporary, if you will.
Sure.
Why are they not handled the same?
This program outlasts me. I was not here when it was created, so I can't speculate to all of the intent. But I know, as you guys have seen, a lot of the conversations around food trucks as well, between the brick and mortar restaurants and the food trucks, and making that compatible and making sure that you don't have one that's, edging too much in on the other of that have buildings themselves. Those temporary permits that we do have, as Carl mentioned, the food truck ones are the only ones that are long. Other ones are Christmas trees and peaches and agricultural products that usually are very seasonal. The food trucks are obviously a lot longer than seasonal, but the goods, the services that we haven't seen so much of, that we've only had a couple instances where people are coming to ComDev to ask about mobile services. It was never envisioned, if I may, that type of thing would inhabit this type of space. So I think there's a little bit of
Surprise.
surprise that it's moving in that direction.
Right.
And I would just say a pilot program, I think, is appropriate to see what's out there and see if council and the community kind of sees it and how it works, and then be able to amend how our programs work.
So, yeah, and if I may too, Counselor Dan, literally this is a pilot program operating off a resolution, not a fully like every nuance that we could ever think of, to allow us an opportunity to tinker with this use a little bit.
But so there's food trucks, then there's really short time permits, as in selling my peaches.
Yep.
And then there is every other business. So doggy wash, barber, that would all fall into that kind of service category.
Mhm.
Unless you're a food truck. Okay,
So
got it.
This includes retail businesses.
And little trinkets and little whatever you bring. Okay, cool. Thank you. Whatever you can think. Excellent. Thank you.
Counselor Weimer.
Hannah, what would an application look like for this?
It's going to be similar to the ones that we take. So we ask for a site plan. We want to know how much parking spaces you're taking up. So we evaluate that to make sure that we're not putting something in. It's going to take up 6 parking spaces of a 10 parking space lot
Mhm.
and cause a problem there. There's also trash mitigation. So we ask to see if, you know, food trucks are definitely more generators of paper plates and utensils and things like that. So you have to show how you're going to handle trash. And so that's the basis and also
Like an
the
agreement, like a
agreement with the
lease
owner.
agreement
Yeah.
or something.
So they have to have the permission to operate on the property that they're at. So that has to be signed by the representative or the owner of the property.
So at least for the pilot, we're sort of envisioning this is going to be not stationary, but it's going to be resigned to one location as it operates, right? It's going to be,
So currently our programs for food trucks, they can have multiple locations. They have to turn in basically, you know,
Multiple
new
site
agreements and
plans.
site plans for each place that they're going to be at. We don't have a limit for that. We haven't really seen that be too much of an issue.
yeah.
We do have a food truck company that one company has 2 trucks and they stay in
Right.
2 different locations, but that's a little different.
For this, it's probably, it could be multiple locations. It could be on Mondays, I'm at the mall, on Tuesdays, I'm at the other thing.
But I believe when they had originally come into community development to talk with us, they were interested in being a little bit more mobile than some of the food trucks are, because they don't have the same, health requirements and for a food truck, you probably want to be more stationary, but a barber could possibly move around.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they would just have to show the same agreements of where they want to be located.
Okay.
So currently, I don't envision a limitation on moving around if they so choose.
If they've got all of the lease approvals, they've got every site plan meets all of our standards, all of those things.
Counselor Kemp.
I guess I had similar questions. So food trucks, are they licensed by the state? And
They
kind
are
of inspected?
licensed also with Garfield County Health Department.
Oh, okay, so they go through a process. That's what
They do.
That's what my questions are around, like how comfortable is community development being the overseer of the quality of the vehicle and the services?
Barbershops also have some licensing requirements through the state.
Do they?
And
Okay.
so for this one, when we were looking at it, we just applied the same standard that we would look at in a salon, like, do you have your state licensure?
Because they
Okay.
fall under.
We're not
okay,
actually
Hartland,
reviewing, like, do you have it or you don't? And that's kind of the extent.
So, but if you get a service that doesn't have that, you're gonna have to make decisions on like quality and visual of the vehicle or things like that. I'm just wondering how,
Yeah, I don't.
do you
I-
see this pilot as developing standards around
Yeah,
that or some sort of
potentially. I mean, I
minimum?
don't know that for those retail or service businesses that we would be looking much more beyond what we would if they were brick and mortar, which, you know, I don't look in your accounting office to see if it meets my standards of quality for an accounting office.
Well,
that I
I'm
go
just
into.
thinking more like, but appearance and cleanliness or things like that, kind of minimum safety standards, which the state or the county health department does in a food truck. But,
I think we do have something for the exterior appearance, so it can't be a rundown. We do look at that, but not the
hand-painted
inside.
school bus or
That'd be
whatever.
cool.
But it still might be cool. That's what I was gonna say.
Functioning, we don't do it a lot, Shelley, I will say.
Yeah, I
It sounds like how-
was gonna say, so I think that there again, this is a pilot of 5. And
Right.
so I think if we run into particular issues, we can try to work through those
Okay.
as we see them, I guess. So like
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to be any more invasive with this necessarily than we would be with a brick and mortar. And like I said, thankfully you guys don't come in and check and see how my law office looks.
No,
any given
exactly.
day.
No, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to get to is staff comfortable making those decisions? Or since this is a pilot and we might only have 5, do you want them to come to council? Because I just as soon once we have a program developed, that council doesn't have to look at these, but what's the feeling?
I don't think I see this as any burden on the program that we have and it limiting it to 5. So that's definitely a cap.
Okay,
So that if there was, I don't know, 15 barbers that wanted to show up tomorrow, like we wouldn't be overwhelmed with that. So I
Okay.
think at this point, the way the pilot is designed, it's a great look for us. And if council then sees these pop up and you don't like the way it looks or is functioning, and then we come back and talk.
then you come back. Okay, so I'm comfortable with that, but I'd also like to have the caveat that if an application comes in that staff is not comfortable with or has questions about, that you can bring it up to council and, you know, feel-
Great.
or just deny it, but, you know.
There is that. It
Be-
is a license.
Yeah.
There's
Be willing to pass the buck up to council during this pilot period.
staff is fairly familiar with most business types that are regularly occurring, so we're familiar with the ones that have state licenses and things of that
Right.
nature and is baked into our business license programs, so I don't see that being an issue.
Are we going to allow liquor sales
That's a Ryan Muse question, and he is not here tonight.
out of a mobile truck?
I don't believe you can at any state licensure.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's,
I don't know.
I know you and I are both looking for both open containers, and mobile vendors.
Park in
Well,
my driveway.
What is it?
It's getting a little crazy with
Yeah.
the
Take
categories.
out.
Last item of the night.
I mean, I know cities where that exists, so.
Yeah, so some of those
like a
businesses that you
food
might
truck.
think about that you would want a higher level of scrutiny actually are state licensed. So things like tobacco sales or liquor or,
Right.
I mean, those have specific licensing in the code separate and apart from what this would be.
Okay,
Or they are regulated like with the liquor code at the state level where mobile just wouldn't be something that would work.
okay, great, thanks.
Counselor Zawinski.
I think this is kind of cool. You know, I think the business landscape is constantly evolving. I think it's nice to see that we're staying kind of in touch with that. Is there any sort of within the current, like associated with the food trucks, do you do site visits periodically or is there any kind of program for that?
We do not actually do site visits, other than enjoying tacos occasionally.
So, which is
Just like this.
yeah. So with this being kind of a pilot program, again, I sit here and I go, how many barbers are going to want to do this? Like, I'm hoping that we see a variety. Like, I hope this is like inspires some innovation. And you know, kind of some new novel ways of doing things. I think it's a great opportunity, especially for startups to kind of mitigate some of the expense of vetting that proof of concept. If you can do it mobile and then possibly move into brick and mortar, I think that's really exciting and interesting. But yeah, so I am really pleased that you guys are doing this and I'm completely comfortable with it just going right through your office. And, you know, we'll just get feedback after the year goes and we see how it goes.
Counselor Weimer.
So Aaron, I'm going to propose a motion actually, a little bit counter what you, one of your comments there. I would propose to accept resolution 2024-18 as written so that decisions do come to council.
Really?
For the pilot period,
Just because it's a pilot. Sorry.
because it's a pilot. And I would like to see some, I don't know how much volume there's going to be, but I would just like to stay close to it.
Counselor Coe.
I will second that motion.
Okay. I'm gonna open it up for discussion. Counselor Godis.
Yeah, I don't want to get involved in this. I won't support the motion. I like I mean, if it is up to me, I would treat these just like food trucks off the bat, but I think that because of some unforeseen things that we haven't seen and apparently no other city has, I don't know. I think we're talking what, 5, what is it, 5.7? What's the number in the pilot? 5, yeah. I don't want every person to come hat in hand to us to have us adjudicate whether it's a valid or good business or not. I think we are subject to political pressures. We're subject to NIMBYs. We're subject to people who may not like that particular business in that neighborhood. And I think that professional staff would adjudicate this much more even-handedly than we would. And I just think it would take up some of our potential time. Or it won't take up any time because this is like the first time it's ever happened. So I appreciate the motion. I just don't want to deal with it. I think we have professional staff that's going to do great on this. So if there's another motion that if this doesn't pass, another motion comes up to pass it as suggested, I would support that.
I'm going to jump in really quickly. Lieutenant Hassel, do you think from a police perspective or acting interim, I don't even know your title right now, Police Chief Hassel, do you see any concerns with these type of properties? I'm getting these food trucks. Do you see, and you can go to the podium to answer just so you can be heard. Do food trucks create challenges for you? Do you anticipate any issues with this?
Typically, they don't.
Okay.
It depends on what type of truck is going to come in. Right now, there's a barber shop that's around, and I don't know what other trucks might be out there. But for us, it has not been a problem.
Okay.
It was during COVID, and that was about it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. So I'm a little different than all of you in that I am not inclined to support this. I think that while I love a little ingenuity, I also like people putting roots into our community. Then they're paying commercial sales tax. They are kind of vested in longevity. This is coming to town, and when they do, but they don't pay commercial real estate tax. Yes. So, for me, we have vacant commercial spaces. We have landlords who have, they care for the spaces, they provide them, they'll rent them, they'll sell them. And I would prefer to see those sites filled with people rather than, and I love, like I said, the ingenuity. I like that people are out there trying something different, but this creates some transientness in our community. My inclination is not to support a change. So I like food trucks, but
we also have Ryan Muse that raised his hand online.
Okay.
He would like to speak.
Okay.
If that's
I guess,
acceptable.
yeah, we'll go ahead and allow Ryan Muse. Ryan Muse, you will be limited to 3 minutes. You are a member of the public at the moment.
Hi, I was just answering Shelley's question about the liquor licenses.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't, a mobile food truck or a mobile business can have a liquor license if they're in a stationary position for a year long and they have a lease they can prove for a year for the upcoming year. All right. Have a
Okay,
good
thank you, Ryan.
Okay. Let's see. Your light is on. Do you need to?
Mine's on?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Counselor Godus.
I think to your question,
Comment.
yeah, I know. Comment. I so appreciate it. I think that it's fair. I think that it speaks to two things. One, I would disagree that, and you probably know the market better than me, so I'll go with you, but I don't see a lot of places. I've looked for places. There's not a lot of commercial leases, especially commercial leases that are reasonable, that need the kind of small square footage. I mean, certainly we have Bed Bath & Beyond, certainly we have Denver Mattress, certainly we have those larger traditional, but as far as like 100 to 400 square feet, which would be these food trucks, again, maybe they're out there in Legion, I just don't see them. And even if they are out there and they're vacant, I suspect they're out there and vacant because it's incredibly expensive. And so I think being able to get these people, and it's kind of like tiny home, a lot of communities are offering and changing these old racist laws about minimum square footage because they were meant to keep out trailers and trailer parks. And a lot of communities are revising that because now trailer parks are not the devil, and tiny homes are a great way to get into affordability. Tiny homes are on wheels. I think the same argument could be made that, those people, because they can relocate, they haven't set up roots. So I think this is a good way to allow people a runway into our community. And so I think that, I think I support this. And I think the other thing you just brought up of speaks to Mitchell's comment about, I want these to come before us, for us to view them. I suspect that if there's members of this council that are just kind of opposed in general to this, we might have a lot of 4-3 or 5-2 votes, people that are just going to say no, even though the majority of council voted to move this program forward. So that's why secondarily, I would defer this to staff.
Counselor Schechter.
Well, without diminishing the other comments, I think we're making a lot about a little. We have a pilot program. We were intrigued by the barber. We got a proposal that's fairly straightforward. Yes, my preference would be that it doesn't come to us, but I'd support Counselor Weimer because we're talking about maybe 5 times at most. And it's a pilot. If we don't like it, we kill it. So I would support the motion as stated.
Should we call the question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Someone's cancel. Oh, whoops. Yeah.
Counselor Zawinski is
Vote the
voted.
same.
The motion passes 5-2.
Usually we read off because that's just what he does.
Aaron Zielinski voted yes. Counselor, Mayor Wusso voted no. Counselor Godes voted no. Mayor Pro Tem Dem voted yes. Mitchell Weimer voted yes. Counselor Kaup, sorry about the counselors and the names and stuff.
Okay.
Counselor Kaup voted yes, and Counselor Schechter voted yes. It passes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to us, and thanks, and I hope it's a success. Moving on, council comments, item number 19. Who? Oh, Counselor Schechter.
Just one thing, there's a conference, as you've been notified, about mobile homes and legislation in Grand Junction next Friday. I'd be willing to go, but I'm not going to be the only one unless we have a contingent of 2 or 3 who don't know what's going on already. I think it's not a great use of time. So I'll be willing to drive there, and anybody else, Counselor Cops want to go, but I'm reluctant to go with just 2 council people and not other commission people. I think it's next Friday, all day in Grand Junction somewhere. I don't know. Near the barber shop.
I sent it to you.
It's at the Workforce Business Center.
I don't even know where that is, but.
Yeah, so I put that out to staff as well. I don't know who is able.
Or
to
other
attend.
commissions.
Yeah, or other commissions.
I'll drive. I don't think Michelle needs the car.
I may or may not be able to attend. I'm still moving some things around. And then we did put it out to Housing Commission and Workforce Housing Advisory Board as well as an invitation.
Thank you.
See if we can snag somebody. Be great. Thank
okay.
you.
Any other, okay, let's see, Counselor Dem.
Thank you. Okay, first up, I'd like to apologize for not going to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting last Monday. I was too busy to attend that, but I want to point out that they are a couple members short, and it would be great if we could get the public involved in that. Also, I went to the DDA on Tuesday. I'll give you a couple updates from my commissions. Went to the DDA, and you already heard most of it from Ryan Gordon tonight. Very exciting. Getting bids in for 6th Street and North Landing. Also, the alleys, the alley bid is in. We had a strategic vision meeting with the DDA, which was fantastic. I hope Jillian has time. There's too much. There's so much going on with what these guys do. So I hope Jillian has time to come by and give us an update on the DDA. I think it's been a while, so I think that would be a great thing, but great group, good people, fantastic, moving forward, visionary kind of actions. So very good. The other board I attended or commission I attended was the Arts and Culture Board, and Shelley was there too. And if I missed something, let me know. It was a very productive meeting. I felt we talked about the actual kickoff party for 6th Street with the artwork that's going to be displayed there on some fencing, some pedestrian guiding fencing, which was everybody's excited about that. The kickoff party, I think, is going to be before, the Thursday before Strawberry Days, because that's right. The Thursday before, because they want to piggyback it with Strawberry Days. So we have people and we have, you know, activity and all that kind of stuff. We also talked about Better Together 3, which is our small mural festival where we paint over old murals or new walls and also electrical boxes. So all this is moving forward. So also actually it was a very exciting meeting, very productive meeting. And I just wanted to fill you guys in. Other than that, I have nothing, but I'm going to take this moment to say the social event tonight is at the Springs by request.
You never go there.
That's why.
Counselor Zelinski. All right, so this morning I attended what I believe is the last airport commission board meeting, because I think there will be a lease and we will no longer have to be overseeing that. So that's kind of exciting stuff. I know it's a long time in coming. There's members of the community that will be relieved to hear that it's finally come to fruition. So I wanted to make sure that I noticed that. And then also another kind of thing that I think the community will be happy to hear is the Tourism Commission Board, Tourism Management, thank you, Tourism Management Board, is just contracted an outside firm to help them with a destination stewardship plan that is community first focused, that addresses local priorities. So in alignment with us and our vision of, you know, getting our outside firm to kind of help us engage our community. There's that recognition from tourism. They're going to work together, so there's not redundancy. It's able to be funded within their current operating budget, so there's no additional ask. So I think that's something that's really exciting, and it addresses a lot of the priorities and things that have been on our collective mind. So those are two fairly exciting things that I had to announce, and that's it.
Counselor Weimer.
Cool. So to bring something to our attention, and it's just because the mayor had that resolution tonight to the organ donor outfit.
The Chris Klug Foundation.
Thank you, the
Yeah.
Chris Klug Foundation. I think it was so organ donation and donating is kind of has hit our family like a couple of years ago. It hits lots of families. That's not the big deal. What we learned through that process, what I didn't know then, maybe what you guys don't know, is that after September 11th, 2001, donated organs were no longer allowed in the passenger compartment of an airplane. They are all now regulated to the underbelly, to where you check your bags. I don't know why, but it was an offshoot of the September 11th attacks and all of the reformations that airline industry that came out of that. As a consequence, a significant, and I don't have my stats, which kind of one reason maybe I didn't want to announce it this way or whatever, but a significant percentage of organs are damaged beyond use because of the way that they're handled in the belly of the plane, right? We all see the movies where it's in the igloo cooler and it's next to the pilot and TLC and it's not, right? And it's, you know, with the best of intentions, people fill out their donor cards and they give up pieces of themselves, and, you know, maybe after they've died and the thing gets on a plane, and by the time it gets to its destination, it's completely useless, right? For everyone. My sister within my family, my sister's taken this up. Bless her heart, she's contacted senators and governors and state legislators, and very few of our national sort of leadership is close to that issue. And you know, she's kind of raised it, and there's things working and things happening, but you know, it's one of those odd things. So I just want to bring this to kind of our collective awareness. And if it's something that you would feel passionate enough about, pick up the phone and call somebody, because I think the more, you know, obviously the more grassroots, the more sort of attention we can give this thing, maybe the faster it gets resolved.
Has your sister created any web presence regarding?
No. Just it's been her calling and writing letters.
Counselor Gotis.
Yeah, I will be in DC on May 22nd for my EPA Small Community Advisory Subcommittee. I don't know if you saw the news that PFAS are now going to be regulated and there's several $1 billion of additional money. That was a recommendation that came out of us and the large community advisory subcommittee. And I say all that not to pat myself on the back, although kind of, but more so that I'll be out there. So if we need any conversations with any legislatures or whatever, I'll have time and I will travel. On the federal government's bill, by the way, not on the Glenwood Springs taxpayer bill. Something else I'd like to bring up is I was made aware that the school district is scrambling, and maybe they shouldn't be scrambling, but they are scrambling because part of its timing, we have for the last several years, I think since the tobacco tax passed, have funded them approximately at $260,000 a year for mental health counselors. This has been fantastic. We have mental health counselors, sometimes 2 in every school in Glenwood Springs, and it's very specific to Glenwood Springs schools. The revenue from tobacco tax has gone down. So we have told them, not we counsel, but staff has said, hey, get ready because there might be a reduction. And so we have told them that they're going to go from 260 to 130. This equates to them having to lay off 1.5 FTEs. The timing part of it's problematic because they need to make decisions on letting these people go very, very soon for the upcoming school year, because the school year obviously goes from August to May, but our fiscal year that we've appropriated money ends December 31st. So Steve, help me figure this out. Did we appropriate 260 this year in our budget or 130?
130 each from tobacco and marijuana.
Okay, so they have the 260 for this year. So the problem is they're going to hit this, January 1st, they're going to be like, whoa, how do we fund this gap? And so I guess what I would like potentially, maybe as an agenda item at the next council meeting, to invite Dr. Anna Cole to come, or whoever represented to come, and just talk about what it's done in the schools, what it's done for our kids in this community, and potentially to entertain a conversation about just funding them. I mean, 80,000 certainly maybe would get them at least through the 2024-2025 school year. After that, I think we need to have maybe a larger conversation and say, okay, well, maybe next year it's 75%. And then we have to wean you off a little bit because we have other priorities. But also, I'm not exactly sure what those other priorities are in those funds either. So I don't want to turn this into a whole, let's re-examine the whole thing. But would there be support to having the school district come and present and potentially entertain additional funding to limp the school district through that second semester of 2025?
Yeah, I would support that, but I'd also, from what I remember of that funding and when they started that whole kind of in-school, more counseling and medical type services within the school, there were other partners. So I'd like the other partners to come also and find out what the status is of bond funding.
Great. Yeah, I'm supportive of that as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank
Cool.
you. Counselor Gotis.
Evening session for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to jump in as well then and just our acting police chief, Hassel. Hey, there was a very, very scary accident on Grand Avenue a little while ago. And we had police officers on the site within 30 seconds. And I just want to say how appreciative I am and how well you managed it with 1,000 high school kids in that vicinity. No one got hurt. It sounds like the woman who did get hurt, we wish her well, and sounds like she's on her road to recovery. But I just want to say thank you, because I think your presence was there so quickly and everybody was rerouted up on to Blake. It just was managed so well. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for those
Mhm.
words.
Yeah. Last night, the chamber did their very first Latino Business Connect night. And it was all done in Spanish, which what a great opportunity for us to all feel that language barrier. And it also acknowledgement of how many Latino-based businesses we have in Glenwood. So I commend the chamber for that act of inclusionary, celebration of businestions. I don't know.
I was there. It was
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went by. It
Yeah.
was good. And I think it'll only get better.
Do you want, okay, great.
Sure, yeah. I was
Perfect.
just-
Let me just turn you on. There you go.
No, I can really speak to that. It was impressive, as the evening went on, more people came.
Yeah.
And it was really humbling to stand in a room and not understand the spoken word. There were screens up that were in English, but it was, a novel experience and it puts you in a little perspective. But I'm so, so proud of the other members of our community that have really risen and recognized the barriers that our Latino community faces in engaging with the broader community. And they're really seeing them and meeting them where they're at and servicing that need.
Yeah.
And so it's very commendable. And the chamber facilitated, but there's a lot of other community partners that are really doing good work.
Yeah. And Giovanni Kennedy was definitely a shout out to her because
Yep.
she is so.
And our very own Gladys.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Gladys.
So,
Yeah, a little shout out to Gladys.
Yeah.
So, also coming up, Strawberry Days. So we, last year did a beer tent shift and I'm gonna ask you all if you're around that Saturday to help me again.
What Saturday is from?
It's always the same Saturday, Sumner.
First through the 23rd.
It's not.
It's the third, it's the third Saturday. Yeah.
21st through the
Third
23rd.
Saturday. How can you not remember this? I think this is a true testament. Who knows Glenwood? Which day is Saturday, which Saturday in June is Strawberry Days? It's always the third Saturday. Okay, anyway, there.
It's actually, this year it's the fourth.
Oh.
I can hear no Glenwood.
I tried to stop you.
It's not Thanksgiving.
It's not Thanksgiving. I swear we said that.
It's because it's a leap year.
It's a leap year, that's it. But regardless, that wasn't even my point. My point was is that they're taking applications for floats. If you want to have a float at Strawberry Days.
No, but I want to pour beer.
Okay, good. So let me know if you want to pour beer with me.
Beer.
And then our own Kevin Brady, owner of Cooper Street Liquors, he gave me the update that House Bill 2413, what is
The
it?
liquor one?
Yep, it's the one on liquor stores. HB 24-1373. It did pass through committees with a 6-5 vote, so it's very close. So if you are supportive of that, and that is once again the great equalizer in how alcohol distribution happens in communities, to reach out to your representatives because that's.
Representative Glasgow's on record.
Yep, we wrote a letter of support. So, other than saying, I promise I am a local, even though I don't know what Strawberry Days is this year, that's the last of my comments. Counselor Gotis.
I'm sorry, I had one more thing. I thought it was going to be under correspondence, incoming and outgoing, but I don't see that it's in there. Steve had sent earlier today at 1:21 an email that I forwarded him that I just got today from the I-70 Coalition, and which we're members of. And the I-70 Coalition has learned that the state is dramatically reducing the scope of the Vail Pass construction. So this is I don't know, 300-400 million, a lot of millions, Floyd Hill Light type project, but it's incredibly important to both Eagle County, Clear Creek, Summit, and yes, we get so many of our visitors, and we ourselves make so many trips to the Front Range and over Vail Pass, at least I do. And so the CDOT has cut out, they hit the same kind of wall that most of us do when we look at these projects where they had to value engineer, but they value engineered a lot of critically important elements, climbing lanes, expansions. There's really nice rock art and there's a really great bike path. But as far as functionality, they took out a large portion of what makes this project doable. They anticipate that the gap is a $50 million gap. And that is significant, but in a $400 million project, it doesn't seem like it would be insurmountable. And so what this letter asks, if you haven't had a chance to read it, I'll summarize it, but just asks that the governor and CDOT prioritize. We've been asked to sign on to prioritize this as a fund, getting this done in the same construction window that it was originally anticipated, because the fear is if they demobilize and say it's done and we'll come back to it when it makes sense, it's by the time it makes sense 10 years from now, it'll be another 300 or 400 million just to finish up that last 25%. So I have, as a representative for the I-70 Coalition, been asked to present this to our council to see if we would support a letter requesting that project be done to completion as contemplated through the record of decision and the planning region 3, also 4 different regional transportation planning regions.
Is there a possibility we can get more information about it? And is it timely? Like, can we wait 2 more weeks?
Sure. I mean, I think the reality is if people haven't had a chance to read it, you shouldn't take my word that this is just good.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean that pejoratively. I think I would encourage everybody to read it.
Okay.
And I don't know, I just got it today, and it's dated April. Well, it's dated April 25th, so I think it's going to go there by April 25th. But I think it'd be very difficult to probably get a lot of councils have meetings on Tuesday nights. So I think this is meant for a lot of the members who have council meetings on a Tuesday. So that's just where we're at. So if we don't feel comfortable signing on in this letter of support at this point, I don't think that this is going to make or break the state's decisions or not. I would encourage it as a member of the I-70 Coalition. But if we don't feel comfortable because enough of us haven't read it, then send lobby.
Counselor,
I just had questions on more information and, you know, I mean, personally, I'd rather see 50 million spent on transit upgrades and maybe a bus lane, but just widening the highway and you know, I think Vail, I'd love to see Vail put more into getting their skiers up there by other means than single occupant vehicles. So same goes for Glenwood for that matter. So the more we can work on supporting programs like busting, more ridership. I'd rather see investments and things like that. So, but I'd be interested to see what the coalition has to say about that. And maybe there are pieces to this puzzle that I don't know. So I would like more info.
Yeah, read the letter. It's somewhat
Okay.
laid out there, but a lot of those elements are climbing lanes for semis and commercial transportation. So it's not making it 3 lanes for more, you know, we're not widening the belt as it was. So it recognizes the curves and the, you know, very similar what Floyd Hill is doing. You know, Floyd Hill is not doing what they're doing at Vail is pretty massive too. Anyway.
Okay. Any additional comments? Okay, we'll take it over to our city manager and city attorney.
Thank you. Just a couple quick things. We had 3 interviews for our affordable housing manager this week, and it was actually fascinating. 2 of them are incredibly highly qualified. As I've gone to some of these housing meetings, I've realized that this is a bigger job than I thought. So we're going to try to regrade that job, and maybe we can recruit. We're going to bring all 3 of them in, but maybe we can recruit one of those. Unless there's an objection, I will talk to our traffic engineer tomorrow and then call Dr. Cole and as a courtesy and let her know, and then put a crosswalk up between the high school and the Ped Bridge.
Thank you.
Okay, last thing, CCCCCCCCMA is here, and I went over there yesterday morning. And, you know, I don't know most of these managers. I probably met, I don't know, 100 people that I introduced myself to. And in every single case that I can remember, it was always met with, wow, this place is awesome. You're so lucky. So it's just
Thank
kind of
you.
a reminder, you know,
Yeah.
it's not that bad here. So
It's wonderful. We're lucky to live
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
that's
thank
it for
you.
me.
Great.
I don't have much tonight other than Counselor Zelinski failed to report back one thing from the Airport Board Commission this morning. Which, by the way, everybody was very appreciative of sort of the grace with which she wrapped that up. The last Airport Board Commission recommendation that they made was that Counselor Zelinski be appointed to the nonprofit board. You know, we have a seat underneath the lease agreement. That would fall underneath the mayor's purview regardless.
It was on my list.
Oh, good.
And I was actually I was going to say that if you're okay with it, that we appoint you to that. And if you need an alternate for any reason, it's a board, so I don't think that's okay, great. Then we're gonna appoint you to that. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you for serving. Yeah, I wrote it on one side of my paper, but not the side that had the list of the things I was gonna say. Because Strawberry Days words were so big. They were like third Saturday. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring it back to council for a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all so much who chose to watch us this evening.